Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. This is going to be a video about how you can do yield farming, or as I like to call it, degen yield farming. Now, this is not actually something that I recommend people go and do, but I understand there's a lot of people who are looking up how to do yield farming and essentially make money in cryptocurrency. Now, I've got very mixed feelings about making money in DeFi. For the most part, I'm just going to say pretty much 99% of it is straight up a Ponzi scheme. I'm going to get into why that's the case later on. But for those who aren't familiar, what yield farming is you are acting as a liquidity provider for decentralized exchanges. So a decentralized exchange might be something like PancakeSwap. So PancakeSwap is a decentralized exchange on Binance's smart chain. That's another layer 1 protocol like Ethereum or like Solana. Binance's smart chain has a decentralized exchange called PancakeSwap, and on here you can buy all kinds of tokens that are native to the Binance smart chain. So where does this liquidity come from? If I go to PancakeSwap and I want to buy the latest poop coin or whatever people buy on here, I guess it is very popular for poop coins. If I want to buy Binance BNB on PancakeSwap, the question is, where does that money come from? Well, that comes from people perhaps like yourself who provide liquidity to the platform. So in order to attract people to provide liquidity to the platform, there needs to be some kind of incentive, and this is where the yield part of the yield farming comes from. If you're going to provide this liquidity to the platform, they're going to provide you a reward in the form of the token that's native to this exchange. So in this case, it'd be the token known as the cake token, right? So the cake token is the token of PancakeSwap. They're going to give it to you as a reward for staking tokens on their platform to provide liquidity. So if I look at this first one here, we see USDT BNB LP, and it's going to give you an APR of 80.41%. Sorry, I just couldn't read that so clearly. So let's break that down. Let's understand what this is. So LP stands for liquidity pool. You're going to provide, if I click on this here, if you provide as liquidity your USD token and your BNB token, you provide them as a pair, you'll receive something called a liquidity pool token, and that's a token that represents the tokens that you provided as liquidity to PancakeSwap. And that liquidity pool token is something that will generate yield. It will generate kind of like a dividend or an interest, and then you can then use that LP token. You can redeem it at any time to receive your original tokens back. And with this liquidity pool token, you can sell it, you can do all kinds of things with it. It's pretty neat. So when it says you're going to make 80.5% APR, how this works is you're actually going to get paid. It's going to accumulate as an amount on like an hourly basis. So it's not like you have to stake and lock your funds in for a full year. At the moment you put your tokens into this liquidity pool, you're going to be generating funds on a pretty much an hourly basis, maybe even like on a minute by minute basis. And this 80.4% APR is really just the reward you're getting on that moment to moment basis extrapolated over the year. So if you calculate 80.47% APR, so that's how much money you would make if you left these liquidity tokens in for a full year. You'd make 80.47%, and essentially if you divide that by 365, you can figure out how much you'd make on a day-to-day basis. Now, the reason why you want to figure out how much you're going to make on a day-to-day basis is because this APR is going to be changing constantly, right? So it's highly unlikely that the APR is going to stay the same a year from now. It's something that is changing frequently. The reason why it's changing frequently is because the reward is going to be determined based on how much liquidity is already in the pool. So if there's a high amount of liquidity, then there's less need to have a high yield rate, because it doesn't need to attract as many people into this thing, right? And it's also going to be based on demand. If there aren't that many people trading USDT to BNB, then there's going to be less of a need to have more people staking their funds, because there's just less demand. And if there's less demand, they don't need to give as much yield. The yield is kind of like a bribe. The higher this bribe is, the more people that are going to want to get invested into this liquidity pool. And as a result, they're going to be able to fulfill their demand for providing this token swap, right? So when you're providing this USDT to BNB, you're helping people who want to buy, say, BNB with their USDT, or you're helping people that want to sell their BNB for USDT, right? You're just helping people who want to trade within that token swap pair, that we call that, the swap pair. So you're going to make money from that. So what I want to mention now is what's the strategy behind this? If you want to go hardcore into degen yield farming, as I call it, what exactly do you want to do? Because if you decide that you want, let me get back on the screen here. If you decide that you want to make money doing this, the problem is you're going to put your funds into there, and over time that APR is going to go down. You're going to make less and less money over time. Why is that? Because if it's a very attractive rate, then more and more people are going to go into that liquidity pool. They're going to try and replicate the success you're having, and as a result, you're going to make less and less money. So the strategy is you then want to be taking advantage of that 80% APR. You're going to every day take your the yield that you're getting out. You're going to be getting that native pool token, the cake token. You're going to be selling it every day, taking profit every day, and most importantly, then when you start seeing that APR going down, maybe 70% is okay, 60%, when it starts getting to 40% or whatever, when it goes down to a lower rate, you then decide to take your funds and take it to another liquidity pool, onto another exchange, perhaps even on another chain, on another blockchain, to try and chase another yield, right? So if I go to a PancakeSwap and I say, okay, this USDT BNB thing is this USDT BNB LP, it's offering me 80%. You know, too many people have gone into this pool. I want to change and go into another pool because the APRs have gone down significantly. Maybe I can go onto another one, right? So maybe you can then look on this one, another one here. This is called SushiSwap, and you can see, is there any offers that are better? And I'm looking through here, and I don't really find anything better. So if I sort of buy APR, what's the most degen stuff that I can get? Now, the reason why I say degen, by the way, I just want to make it clear. The reason why I say degen is because of the fact that frequently, not always, but frequently, if you're going to want high APRs, you're going to be forced to purchase less than quality tokens in order to make that money, right? So if you're going to be just staking USDT in Bitcoin, which would be, two very stable cryptocurrencies, there's not a good chance that you're going to get a high yield on that. But if you're going to, let's pull up the screen here. If you're going to be staking, if you're going to be providing liquidity for, what is this, Warpy/ETH, I don't even know what Warpy is. I don't know what that is. That's probably, it's probably a bona fide meme coin. If I type this up on CoinGecko, what can we find about Warpy coin? Warpy, will it even show up? Here we go. Warpy, down almost 10% today. It's got a market cap of, it doesn't even show because it's probably so low. It's got a trading volume of only $100,000, so it's a very illiquid market. If you were to buy and sell it, the spread would probably take up a lot of, who knows, it could be 5-10%. And it's been in a downward trend for a long time. So if you hold Warpy and you stake it with your Ethereum, then you can make, what is this? 100,000%, if I'm reading that correctly. You'll make 100,000% APR to compensate you for holding this this crap coin, this piece of crap. And if we look at some of the other metrics here, we can see that the TVL is like less than 1 cent, so no one's providing liquidity for this token pair. So as a result, because no one's providing liquidity, SushiSwap is offering such a ridiculously high APR, so somebody is willing to take the bait in order to take the risk of holding this token that continues to go down, and then provide it on this platform where there's not a whole lot of volume, and if they provide it, then they'll get 100,000% APR. And it's not always going to be just straight up, because there's low volume. You pretty much are going to have to wait for someone to buy Ethereum, buy or sell Ethereum or Warpy, buy or sell Warpy with Ethereum in order for you to get your yield. So if you just put it in, you're not going to get funds, you're not going to be making money straight away, because you need to wait for someone to actually use your liquidity in this token, in this swap pair, in order for you to make money. I don't know if that made a whole lot of sense, but I'm just trying. Basically, the too long didn't read version of this is that if you provide liquidity to high risk swap pairs, then you'll be able to make a lot of APR, right? So this second one here is Cello, and if you provide the liquidity for this with another token that I've never even it's USDC, but it's a derivative of USDC, AXL. I guess it's some chain that I haven't heard of. It's the USDC version, that stable coin on this blockchain that I haven't really heard of. You provide it as a swap pair with Cello, you can get up to 100,000% APR, right? So you say, well, that's free money. What's the catch here? Well, the catch is, as I mentioned, you're going to have to be holding these coins that are very likely to be going down rapidly in value. So I don't know much. Well, let's talk about Warpy real quick, right? Because Warpy is almost certainly a bona fide shitcoin, and it doesn't strike me as figuring out the things in the trilemma. It's not like Bitcoin. There's a high chance this is an inflationary token, and they probably got a lot of there's probably a lot of tokens that are locked that over time they're going to be unlocked, and it's essentially an inflationary token, right? So unless people are going to just start buying a bunch of Warpy, and joining on this Ponzi scheme, which is essentially what it is. You have to understand these tokens are straight up a Ponzi scheme. There's no reason for this coin to go up, because there's people who have already made all their money. They bought down here, they were in on the pre-sale or whatever it was, and they're just continuing to sell. There's just fewer and fewer people who are willing to buy this token. So if you want to buy it for the sake of getting this 100,000% APR, you've got to understand that you're going to have to take into consideration that the price of this token is to continue to go down. And then there's another thing that we need to take into account as well, which I'm going to be honest, I'm going to have a little bit of a hard time explaining the mechanisms behind this. I think it's a little bit complex, but it's worth trying to attempt to explain it, and that's the concept of impermanent loss. So let's just say you've got $100 worth of Bitcoin and $100 worth of USDT. You provide it as a liquidity pair onto a decentralized exchange. And let's just say if Bitcoin goes up by 2x, so let's just say Bitcoin is worth $100,000 and it goes up by $200,000. On the other hand, you've got the USDT, which has stayed the exact same. You'd think that the value of that liquidity pair has gone up by a corresponding amount. However, the reality is, although the value of your Bitcoin has gone up, and it would seem like you've made money, you've made 2x on your Bitcoin. The reality is, because it's been prepared with a token that hasn't gone up by the same amount, the overall value of that liquidity pair wouldn't have gone up as high as what the Bitcoin price has gone up as. It would have actually lost value. This is really hard to explain the maths behind it. So the best thing you want to do is you want to go to a impermanent loss calculator. This is one, I will leave it in the description below. It's called dailydefi.org, and this impermanent loss calculator will explain exactly how much value would be lost if the value of a token has gone up more compared to another. So with C token A, again, we'll say this is Bitcoin, it's worth $1,000, and token B, we'll say this is USDT, also worth $1,000. If token A, as in Bitcoin, has 2x in value, it's gone up by $1,000, and token B has stayed the same price, you'll have incurred an impermanent loss of 5.2%. So I don't want to butcher it by pretending to know the specific arrangements of how this formula works. It's just simply the best that I know of explaining to you is that the swap pair has to be of an equal amount, right? So if you provide $100 worth of Bitcoin and $100 worth of USDT, they've got to be equal. And I know there's like on some exchanges and some swap pairs, like, you know, you can only provide it at a certain ratio. So maybe if you want to get involved in a swap pair, you have to provide like, you know, 70 Bitcoin for every 100 USDT. There's always an arrangement that has to be met, and then the exchange is going to make you provide these pairs at a particular ratio based on how much they need of one or the other, right? Yeah, so if that ratio changes because the value of one crypto went up compared to the other, the exchange will have to kind of cut, I guess, like pare down the value of one particular coin compared to the other, but not even by devaluing the coin, but by lowering the value of your LP token, which is the thing I mentioned before. When you provide the swap pair to an exchange, you'll receive something called a liquidity, an LP token, a liquidity pool token that you can then use to redeem on the exchange to get your original tokens back. So if I provide Bitcoin USDT as a liquidity pair, in exchange I will get an LP token, which I can then keep. It represents the value that I put onto that token. I can redeem that at any time to get my tokens back. If there was impermanent loss that took place when I redeemed those tokens, when I redeem those LP tokens, I'm going to get less back than I originally put in. So what's the point of this? If you're going to put less in than you put in, if you're going to get less back than you put in, well, the idea is if you made more money on the APR, then you can kind of do an arbitrage. So if you lost like say 20% on impermanent loss, but you were making 100% on your APR, then the idea is then you make profit there, right? This stuff is all very complicated, and I want to warn you all that the chances of getting wrecked is extremely high. There are ways of safely doing providing liquidity and doing yield farming. You know, maybe you can go to a safer chain and provide something very simple like USDT and Bitcoin, or Bitcoin, Ethereum. But mostly where the big gains are going to be when you're providing liquidity for these lesser known coins, like these lesser known tokens, going onto lesser known blockchains where there's less liquidity, going onto lesser known exchanges. And there's all kinds of risks when you put money when you're staking money on a DEX in general. Maybe there's smart contract risk. There's all kinds of things that can go wrong. But I hope this video was good enough to demonstrate what is going to take place if you decide to get involved in this game. And it's as simple as, again, just to recap, if you're going to do this and you want to be a degen about it, you go try and find whatever provides you the most amount of APR. You can go to a place like PancakeSwap, SushiSwap, or if you want to learn more about the different types of DEXs and places that are requiring liquidity, go into DeFi Llama, look at the chains, And obviously the ones, the top chains with the most amount of TVL, that's total value locked, are going to be the safer protocols where you're probably not going to make as much money staking on the dexes on those particular on those chains. So if you scroll down, the assumption is if you look at chains where there's less TVL, TVL again means total value locked. That means on all the dexes, on all the protocols, on all the dApps on that particular chain, this is the total amount of value that people have locked onto those chains, maybe because they're doing staking, they're doing yield farming, they're doing some kind of liquidity mining or whatever, right? If the lower the TVL, the higher the chance that you're going to get higher yields on the various dexes. So if I scroll down to an old favorite of mine, Phantom, there's only about $100 million locked on here. If I then go into Phantom, and you can then go into Phantom, you look at the different the different decentralized applications on here. Most of these are going to be like yield aggregators or dexes, stuff like that. The chances that these are going to provide like some stupidly high APY is going to be quite high, APR, whatever. So if I look at Spooky Swap, there should be, let me see here, you should be able to get like a really high amount of APR if it loads. You know what, it's not going to load. My internet's a bit messed up right now, but it would not surprise me if you go to some of these lower liquidity, lower volume chains, and you go into some of their more obscure dexes. That's when you're going to see things providing like 1,000% and stuff like that. But again, it's very, very risky. I don't recommend it. Personally, this is a channel that's about debanking, and a big part of the debanking journey for me has been something called peer-to-peer trading. And if someone really wanted to learn how to make money in cryptocurrency as a business and not just as a speculating DeFi monkey trying to find the biggest degen shitcoins to invest in, or the most degen liquidity pools to start mining in, I'd recommend going into peer-to-peer trading. And like yield farming, you're also going to be providing liquidity, which I think is a very decent business model. The difference between providing liquidity on a peer-to-peer cryptocurrency exchange and a like one of these other dexes that I was talking about is that you can do this as a normal business, and you can set your own rates, and things are much more above board. So what you're going to do is, if you go to a place like Local CoinSwap or HODL, which are peer-to-peer cryptocurrency exchanges that I'm always talking about in my videos, these are exchanges that don't require KYC for you to sign up. And on this exchange, there are a number of people who want to buy cryptocurrency on an exchange that doesn't require KYC because it goes against their principles, or I don't know what their reasons are. It's a very interesting and diverse ecosystem in the peer-to-peer trading system. And if you're going to go onto one of these exchanges and provide liquidity on there, maybe you're selling Bitcoin for like PayPal, you're selling Bitcoin for TransferWise, you're selling Bitcoin for Revolut, and someone's going to open a trade with you, they're going to sell. You can sell to them at a premium because there's less liquidity on that exchange, and there's less people that are willing to sell Bitcoin or cryptocurrency in general without KYC. So if you're willing to provide that kind of service to other people, you can make money by selling Bitcoin at like, a 4 or 5% above market rate to these people who have a demand for it. And to me, that's a very honest business model. Whereas if you get involved in this other yield farming garbage, there's a very good chance you're just contributing to this this meme coin Ponzi scheme stuff. And a lot of these dexes and all these things, they're providing 100% APR, whatever. These are all Ponzi schemes, right? So when you look at PancakeSwap and they're providing like 100% APR on something, at the end of the day, they're paying that yield to you, that dividend to you, in their native token, which is the Cake Swap token, the Cake token, and that's an inflationary currency. So they're just printing this token essentially out of thin air, more or less, to generalize it, and then they're going to pay that token to you, which you're going to sell it on the exchange, which then it's just going to increase the supply, and they're paying you in an inflationary token. So everything about DeFi, frankly, at this stage is Well, I mean, DeFi in the realm of doing our layer one protocols, providing liquidity to dexes, most of it is just, it's a Ponzi scheme, right? And I really feel strongly about not encouraging my viewers or people that I know to get involved in Ponzi scheme. I would much prefer that they get involved in honest businesses, which in cryptocurrency, there are a number of honest businesses that you can get involved in that don't involve grift or Ponzi schemes or anything like that. So if you're interested in getting involved in P2P trading, selling and making money on these exchanges, you can use my referral links in the description below for local coin swap on HODL. I've also got a new one called BitPapa. That's a place where you can do P2P trading for Monero if you're into that. But you can also provide liquidity on centralized exchanges like Binance, Bybit, OKX. I've also got referral links in the description below for them. You can be a P2P trader on these exchanges, and they have their own upsides as well. Even though they are centralized exchanges, they've got better rates. And maybe some of you decide that you like P2P trading, but you don't necessarily want to be involved in these exchanges where there's no KYC. Maybe it's not something you feel comfortable with. So I'm going to leave you a number of options in the description down below if you want to get involved in that. And if you have more questions about P2P trading, debanking, whatever, feel free to leave a comment in the description down below. This is a small channel, so I have no excuse but to answer any questions that you guys have. And make sure to subscribe, and I'll see you next time.